What's going on, guys? It's Rob here from Shonen Showdown, and I'm here with Chris over at Setting Reviewer. Make sure you guys show some love and subscribe to the channel. But listen, we're going to be ranking the worst generation pirates in One Piece, and we're going to be ranking them from weakest to strongest. If you are not up on the One Piece manga, you have been warned. Let's get right into it. Now, coming in last place at number 12, we actually went with Jewelry Bonney. Now, we understand Bonney has an incredible fruit. She can age things, not only other people and objects, but she can also age herself. She can make herself younger or older, and we do know that she has access to techniques that can literally take a possible future version of herself and she can apply it to her current version of herself. We've seen that in Egghead, where she was able to get physically stronger by applying that technique. She's top tier all around in terms of using her devil fruit, but we still have questions on Bonney's haki. We still have questions on whether she can contend with some top tier characters within the One Piece verse. We do have to see more, and even though she's able to rust objects and all of these things, her devil fruit power is so insane that she was able to literally infiltrate the Holy Land. We have to give her credit where credit is due. She's elite in that regard, but there's still a couple of things that Chris and I are really waiting to see from Bonney before we start moving her up the list. I think it will happen. We just have to wait and see.
At number 11, we go with Hawkins, who absolutely had no heart of cards on his side in the Wano arc. Actually, he isn't even a really good one-on-one fighter. Not even in his puppet form, in which Killer could easily get one puppet after the other out of him. His tactic is to blackmail the enemies until he wins. Good thing that he is smart and always calm to get it done. He could set up some traps and use his voodoo dolls to mess with people. But the big question with him is who he got with his puppets. And also, could it be broken with a strong haki? I mean, he could actually win against a Zoro or Luffy if he had dolls made of some of the other Straw Hats. That's exactly how he almost got Killer. So actually, it's kinda hard to judge him right. But if we think that those 10 puppets in him are absolute random guys, then it's a bit hard for him to beat one of the following guys.
At number 10, we went with Capone Bege, captain of the Fire Tank Pirates. Now, he does have access to the castle fruit, which means that he is a defensive specialist. He's able to turn into a giant castle that can box, that can shoot cannons. We've seen him literally contend against Big Mom during the Whole Cake arc, so we had to give him some credit there. But how is he looking in the hockey department? We have questions, and we do know that the Fire Tank Pirates really move together as a unit. If the Fire Tank Pirates are not near a Capone Bege in battle, then he has something to worry about, because offensively is where he struggles the most. We do need to see a lot more offensive powers coming from Capone Bege. I think he does have it in him. We just have to see it, because we did not get to see a lot of it in Whole Cake. I do think though that the castle fruit, because it's able to absorb people into the castle in close proximity to Bege, I think that is a very unique ability. He can slightly move up in the list later on in the One Piece world. Do I think he's there right now though? No. I believe we need to see better haki, whether it's armament, observation haki, conquerors possibly. We do need to see a little bit better haki from Bege, because listen, the worst generation now have to move up. We are in post-Wano territory. We cannot be looking at the worst generation pirates thinking that they can get away with little to no haki. That's not going to cut it. We need to see more. And considering Capone Bege, like many of the Fire Tank Pirates, use firearms, observation haki at a top tier level is a must.
Seriously, even though I can't stand this character at all, he's not to be underestimated. His devil fruit power is pretty strong, and if you don't know the weakness, he will hit you with his explosions at least a few times before you figure out the pattern. Yet his biggest problem is that probably 8 out of 12 on this list know exactly about this weakness. But luckily he doesn't just beatbox the enemies to death, but he can also take way more damage than you think. Whether it's being slammed against the wall by kids, being chewed up by extract for lunch, being sliced up by Zoro, or being attacked by the CP0 with Shigan. And even without his devil fruit powers, he can do some damage with his tonfas. Not everyone can fight against a Zoro and an extract at the same time, even if it's just for a short time. The running jukebox hasn't shown any real knockout power for now, but his cunning, his tonfa skills and his stamina definitely speaks for him.
At number 8, we went with X Drake. Now we do know X Drake is the captain of SWORD, which is a top secret organization of the Marines, so we do know he's elite in that regard, but what we really want to look at is that he is a Zoan fruit user. What have we learned about Zoan fruits so far in the One Piece story? We do know that if they are awakened, not only does their power increase or the speed increase of the user, but their recovery enhances as well. That means X Drake's ceiling is much higher than we previously thought. We've seen X Drake on the performance floor in Onigashima helping Zoro box against an apoo. X Drake is in the conversation. We put him in the middle of the list because that's really what he's been showing us. He's been fighting with people that are kind of in the middle of the worst generation tier list, but we do think that there's a chance that he can move up as a captain of SWORD, as a person that is a Zoan fruit holder. He has the ability to awaken his fruit maybe one day and even step up even higher than he is now. We do know that he knows about Haki because you're even seeing somebody like a Kobe responding to him, looking up to him, and we do know that Kobe was under Garp's tutelage and he learned Haki through that way. So we know X Drake has Haki hands down, but we want to see the full powers of X Drake, and that's the only reason why we have him kind of towards the bottom, but he may move up later on.
We know Urouge has the smallest bounty of all the supernovae. He's the only one of which we know nothing about. Nothing about his abilities except that he has a devil fruit power. Nothing about his past, except that he is clearly the son of Ronnie Coleman. And even though we have almost no information about him, he is still our number 7. Pre-time skip, he smacked the pacifista in a 1-on-1, something that the Straw Hats had to do as a whole crew, and Kid and Law's crew had to join forces. He was the only one who could really make an impact during the skip and defeat a commander of a Yonko. But after he defeated Snag, he had to handle Cracker as well, which was a bit too much in one go. Would probably be for Luffy after the fight against Cracker as well. But even then he was able to run from the forest, which Boulay said was an impossible thing to do. And he escaped with his whole crew, who all got out there unscratched. Kid, Apoo, Bege were all in Big Man's territory too, but escaped or cooperated real fast, so they couldn't do any real damage. And this big ass monk will probably be a key player in the future, since he's the last supernovae who hadn't met Luffy yet.
At number 6, we went with Killer, who happens to be Captain Kid's right-hand man. He is an elite swordsman in the One Piece world. We've seen what he was doing in Roof Piece against Kaido. He landed a big-time attack. He was on the roof with a Luffy, Zoro, Law, Kid. I mean, he was in that conversation, boxing, and he was able to take down Hawkins. And if we're looking at him fighting against a Zoro in Wano as well, he did not get bodied too badly. He was still able to contend. But this was Zoro pre-Enma, so we have to slow our roll just a little bit. But the fact that Killer was able to take down Hawkins, even though Hawkins was using some cheese against Kid and was trying to use Kid as a doll and all of these things, he still was able to get the job done. Killer is elite. We definitely have to put him in the top half of our worst generation tier list. Absolutely.
You know you're a badass when you can slam a giant robo-bull against the Yonko and break her arm, even if it was already a bit injured by Law. Depending on where he fights, his strength gets greater or smaller because he has more or less metal to fight with. If there's nothing there, he still has his junk arm and can turn his enemy and something else into magnets that attracts each other. His some kind secret weapon is his laser, which he can somehow create when he forms a bit of junk into a gigantic gun. Kid is a very aggressive and ruthless pirate who shows no mercy to his enemies. He has crucified several other pirate crews and is known for attacking civilians who pissed him off. Kid has faced some powerful opponents, such as the Pacifista, Shanks against whom he lost his left arm, Kaido and Big Mom. He has often lost, but he has never given up or submitted. He has always kept his pride and his ambition and is willing to do anything to achieve his goal, to become the king of the pirates.
At number 4, we went with Zoro, one of the greatest swordsmen in the One Piece world, and we do have to give him credit for what he was able to accomplish on the roof, because not only did he block an attack from both Kaido and Big Mom at the same time, it was a combo attack, y'all, but he was able to land a big time scar on Kaido. We have to give him credit where credit is due. His Conqueror's Haki is elite. He has access to Enma. He was able to take down King, who was a top tier lead performer. And we do know that King has access to Lunarian abilities. And he was able to read that, look at the flames on his back and say, you know what? My Enma can still get the job done against King. He was even boxing against S-Hawk in Egghead Island. He was able to contend with one of Vegapunk's best inventions of all time, and we do know that S-Hawk was modeled after a Mihawk, who happens to be one of Zoro's final opponents in the One Piece world. So seeing him contend against an S-Hawk is just giving us a little teaser on what Zoro's ceiling is. Zoro is an elite swordsman. He has a 3-sword style that is very unique to the story. He had to remind the newly improved Cypher Pole members that it does not matter how much improvements you've made, Kaku. I am Zoro and I am still here. Now I know some people might be questioning, why is Zoro sitting over a Captain Kidd? Well, Zoro has better handles on his Conqueror's Haki. We were able to see that against Kaido because he was able to scar Kaido dangerously. Zoro having access to Enma now puts him on a different level. He just has to control it just a little bit more. But when you're looking at Captain Kidd, his Devil Fruit Awakening, it was impressive, but Law was still the front runner in the fight against Big Mom. We do need to see what Kidd can do by himself, and that will really change our minds and let us know if he rightfully so belongs ahead of Zoro or underneath him. And Kidd is on his way to Elbaf, so maybe we will get a better understanding there. But we do know that Kidd on the roof was not putting in as much work as Zoro was. We do know that Kidd does have something in him because he's a Conqueror's Haki user. He has a 3 billion berry bounty, so there's no sleeping on Kidd there. But is he Zoro level when it comes to Haki? We have to wait and see. So we're looking at all of these things, the improvement of his Haki, the fact that he has access to Conqueror's Haki. Zoro is now an elite member in the worst generation.
With surgical precision, he plans his campaigns, and with the help of the Straw Hats and the Kids Pirates, he was able to overthrow Kaido and Big Mom from the positions as Yonkos. He ate the Opeopinumi that gives him the ability to cut and manipulate everything in his surroundings. He can use it to dissect his enemies or even taking out their hearts. With his K-Room, he gets under the skin, and with his R-Room, he silences the enemy. So much variation, so unpredictable. And Law isn't only a gifted surgeon, but also a brilliant strategist. He has devised several plans to achieve his goals, such as the alliance with Luffy and later Kid to shake up 2 Yonkos, or the destruction of the Smile Factory on Dressrosa to bring down Doflamingo. He always thinks one step ahead and always catches his enemies with his plans and his deceptions. He also learned a thing or two in the fight against Kaido and Big Mom. He now can control his Awaken ability better, and he can also use his Haki so well that he can negate Devil Fruit abilities.
At number 2 of all time in the worst generation pirates, we went with Monkey D. Luffy. Now, what is there to say about Monkey D. Luffy that we don't know already? I mean, he is elite. What he was doing in Wano was some of the greatest stuff that we've seen from Luffy. The advanced conquerors coming out, the reroll techniques. He was able to split the skies clashing with Kaido. And not only did he split the sky, but he unlocked his Gear 5th form, which is the Sun God Nika form that we were seeing, which literally put him on a top tier level. It made him a Yonko. Luffy is now an Emperor of the Sea based on what he was able to portray in the Wano arc. With his awakening, he can literally change the properties of objects that he's touching, and not only objects but people themselves. He was able to literally jump rope with Kaido. He was boxing Kaido from the inside, was throwing Kaido around the place, and not only that, Luffy was running on air. His abilities are some of the greatest that we've seen because he can literally turn his imagination into reality. We are seeing things right before our very eyes. Even if you were landing an attack on Luffy, he's able to defend himself by reforming and reshaping his body. And not only his body, but he can reform and reshape the ground and the surrounding environment around him to help buffer the damage that he's taking from attacks. He has leveled up so much, it's insane. And even though Rob Lucci has been in the gym, even though Rob Lucci was able to get stronger, he enhanced himself, he awakened his zone fruit abilities, he still was no match for Luffy, because not only has Luffy's devil fruit improved, but his haki has improved as well. He has great future sight that was able to match up with a Kaido. He has great conquerors that was able to match up with a Kaido. His armament is there, his reroll is there. You have to give Luffy credit where credit is due. He's top tier now.
Every time he fights, it looks like he's very weak. But every time he comes out as the winner. Coincidence, luck, fate, or skill. Without the devil fruit, he gave Shanks such a scar, killed Thatch, defeated Ace with the Yami Yami no Mi, and rose to a Yonko in no time with the Gura Gura no Mi. Blackbeard is a character who not only knows exactly what he wants, but he knows exactly what he has to do to achieve his dream. Everything is planned. He doesn't make a move without thinking about the consequences. He's tactically on the highest level as well as physically. Even though he doesn't look like it, Blackbeard is very intelligent and knows almost everything about every devil fruit. We don't see a Luffy could beat up a Blackbeard, at least not yet. For that, Luffy's stamina is still a bit too weak. But even though Blackbeard is the strongest character on this list, he probably still has the same problem as any other devil fruit user when he falls into the water.
Hello, how are you? I am under the water. Please help me. Here too much raining.